1. Okay, so for starters, I am in my 30s and I have an 8-year-old child. I also have a 1-year-old cat. I live in a second-floor apartment. I live in an apartment complex, at least 30 apartments in my building, maybe less. Anywho, I've been here 3 years. My downstairs neighbor moved in about a year after I did. Never had any interactions with him until recently, December of last year. I decided to introduce myself and my daughter to him and let him know if we are ever too loud to please let me know, and I will do my best to fix it. I just want to put my daughter into school 5 days a week, and I work full-time 5 days a week. Anyway, after I introduced myself to this man, this is when all hell broke loose. After that, I ran into him once or twice, and he made small complaints about me dropping things and me getting ready for work in the morning. To keep it down. He was nice about it and calm, not an attitude or anything. I also want to put that I am walking on eggshells. I tell my daughter 500 times a day, don't run, don't stomp. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago, it's 5 a.m. His fire alarms are non-stop going off. It wakes my daughter and I up. We were sound asleep. He then starts banging on the ceiling. All of a sudden, the fire department is at my door, asking me if my fire alarms are going off. I say no, it's the downstairs neighbor. He's banging on the ceiling. The fire department heard him banging, so they go down there. He refused to open the door, which resulted in the fire department calling the sheriffs. The sheriffs came, and he finally opened the door and started screaming about how I dropped something at 2 a.m. and it woke him up, and he sent them to my door. The cops come to talk to me and ask me if there's a feud going on with my neighbor. Me being clearly confused, I explain everything I just explained here, and the cops go back down to speak to him. I don't know what was said, but they come back up and the cops told me to call them if he bangs again, and they said he seems like he is out of it and crazy. Now, 2 days ago, 5 a.m. again, I wake up to a loud banging on my door, and I mean loud. I can hear him screaming and banging on his ceiling, blowing a horn, yes, a horn. He then proceeds to run up to my door and bang like the military or something. It was so scary and loud. I didn't open the door. He was screaming at me through it, saying he's filing a legal complaint against me because my cat is running around and I'm rolling bowling balls on the floor on purpose. Mind you, me and my daughter were in bed, sound asleep. So I scream at him through the door to get away from my door. I call the cops. Cops come talk to him first, then come talk to me. He tells me he's going to file a complaint against me, and the cop said he will file one back against him if he files one on me. They leave to go speak to him again, and when they come back, they tell me that he told the sheriffs that he is deliberately banging on the ceiling, and that he knows I'm not making noise on purpose, but somehow he is still the bad guy. The cops say, well, yes, you are, because if you know these are normal sounds, why are you aggressively banging and screaming? Also forgot to mention, when he was banging on my door, screaming, my neighbor across the street came out and asked him what the hell he was doing, which made him back off from my door until the cops came. So anyway, he admitted to the cops that he's banging, and he admitted he knows I'm not purposely making noise. So cops told me to pick up incident reports from both times to give to my leasing office, which I'm going to do Thursday. Weirdest part is, when my leasing office confronted him about what he did, the first time the cops came, he told the leasing manager and maintenance man that he has no complaints about me, and I'm a great neighbor and I'm never loud. She also said no one has ever complained to them about me, and that he has never made a complaint to them about me. So it's throwing me off that he's doing this, but telling the leasing office something different. I'm terrified that he's crazy. He is. The most recent night when cops came, they made him go to a hospital, and also told me he had lost his mind. 2 different sheriffs have now told me about this guy, and it's scary. I'm a small, single mom, and I'm scared of this guy. He's got really aggressive and angry and scary, and I don't know what to do. I'm afraid he's going to do something to me and my daughter, or even my car. Cops don't do anything besides talk to him, and my leasing office say they don't want to send him a notice in case he tries to retaliate against me, but they are going to keep my incident reports to keep a folder on him. I guess to get evidence to kick him out, maybe? They're just saying that to placate you. I don't know if I can afford to move. I love it here and I've never had any issues until now. I just don't want something bad to happen to my daughter or me before the cops actually do something. This guy is insane. What would you do? Hellfreezer's note, I think I'd be focused on getting out of there. It may not be practical to do it right away. It may not be practical to do it quickly. But in the long term, that should be what you do. You might like the area, but you have a crazy person living next to you, and it's really just not worth the risk. You could assume that the cops going to his door twice might have shook some sense into him, but these aren't the actions of a rational man. And you can't assume that it will be the last time. 2. So I've been having issues with my neighbor since my family moved in back in July of last year. 2024. It is me, my husband, and our infant son, but he was born in February, so a lot of time living here I've been pregnant. Anyways, there's a guy who lives next door to us who's not all mentally there. He goes around asking people for cigarettes, money, etc. He has been caught peeing on our house by our trailer park's property manager, walks around aimlessly through the trailer park, and will even knock on people's doors and ask for stuff. I am lenient with him because I know he's not all there. But he had some family move in, this lady who's my age, late 20s, early 30s, and her boyfriend who was probably the same age. At first things were fine, but they would annoy me with how loud they would be next door, like slamming stuff around and doors and stuff. I brushed it off a lot. It was very annoying, though, especially when you're pregnant. I mentioned it to the property manager along with the mentally ill guy bothering us for things and knocking on our door and peeing on our house. It didn't stop. We just brushed it off instead. Things got awkward between my neighbors and I, probably November-ish when they got caught using our outdoor electrical outlet instead of their own to use our electricity. We told them to stop and we locked our outlet up. Things got awkward after that, but we didn't speak to them or bother them. We just wanted to be left alone, you know? Again, told the property manager and she talked to them and said it wouldn't happen again, yeah, right. Conversed with me and told me how they don't pay their rent like they're supposed to, and are late and aren't even on the lease, so they better stop doing dumb stuff. I thought that information was interesting. Fast forward about a week before I went into labor, so beginning of February or so. They have this broken down Jeep in their yard, and I don't know if they were fiddling with it or what, but they were triggering the car alarm, and it was late like 9 or 10 at night, and I got super annoyed and went outside to see what was going on. I see their little girl, about 10 years old, outside with them, so I smiled and waved at her and went back inside because I'm not going to say anything or act the fool with a child outside. My mom was staying with us while this was all happening. She is a smoker, so she would smoke outside in her car, and she went outside to smoke after this, and the lady was talking about whooping my butt and talking crap and calling people over to our house to jump me. Mind you, I'm heavily and noticeably pregnant. I brush it off and don't address it or bother with it. Then my water broke that same night. I gave birth and everything, and then get discharged from the hospital, and my neighbors start parking their new car right next to our trailer in the grass, instead of their driveway or in their yard. It's literally right next to our trailer, and they're slamming the doors and being loud all day. And it sounds like someone is banging and smacking the side of our trailer. This goes on all day, and we lay our son down to sleep in his nursery, which is in front of the trailer, which would be right next to where they're parking, and they are slamming so loud they wake my son up, and he's crying and shaken up. Was debating calling the cops, and I didn't want it to blow up into a big thing, so I decided to write a note, but my mom said she was going to go over there and talk to them. First she knocks on the door a few times, and the lady peeks out the blinds and doesn't come out, so Mom was like, okay, write them a note. So I wrote a stern but polite note, telling them I have a baby in the house now, and they need to move the car off our side of the property, because they're being loud and asking them to be quieter, etc. And I leave it on their door. Not even 10 minutes later, the lady comes pounding on my door, like the damn SWAT team or something. It literally shook the walls by the front door. My mom answers, and the lady is yelling, saying whoever left that note could have come talk to them. And my mom was like, I left the note. And then the lady was like, no, you didn't, blah, blah, blah. Then I come out on the porch with my newborn son in my arms and explained to her that the reason I left the note is because we tried knocking on their door and she didn't answer. She denied that and started getting loud and ignorant, so my mom started matching her energy. and telling her that we did see you come on the porch and didn't answer. And it escalated to the lady threatening to rip me off the porch and whoop my butt, with my newborn son in my arms, and at this point her boyfriend is over and acting ignorant too, and yelling and causing a scene. My husband and mom are telling me to call the cops. I should have, but didn't, because again I didn't want it to turn into a whole thing. It really is already a thing by this point. So I called the property manager, and she came over and handled it. It was understood that they were to leave me alone and stay on their side of the property. They were told if they didn't, I could get their car towed and they would get a violation and kicked out. That they're on thin ice, yada yada. Well, that lasted about a month, because just the other day, the lady pulled up in the passenger seat with a friend of hers' car, and they pulled up right next to our house again in the spot they know they aren't supposed to be in. Our yard, our property. Me and Mom are sitting outside and see them do this. I brush them off because, whatever, trying to get a reaction out of me. And I continue to talk to my mom. Then out of nowhere, the lady starts talking crap to me. I talk back to her, and I know I shouldn't have, but I did. And I left to go grab my husband's mom from around the corner because she told me the next time something happens with them to grab her because I'm still healing from birth. I have a lot of stitches and such. I had a complicated birth. I almost died, but that's a whole other story. So I came back from grabbing my husband's mom, and my mom tells me while I was gone for the 10 minutes that I was, the lady and her friend were talking about jumping me and stuff, and my mom and my husband's mom are talking, and the mentally ill guy comes out on the porch at the wrong time, and my husband's mom yells at him as the lady is peering through the blinds and hiding behind him that if they keep messing with me, the whole family is going to be in their yard and rip them out their trailer, yada yada yada. I didn't know she was going to say or do all that, by the way, but the lady didn't come out or anything, and I again told the office manager what happened, and told her obviously whatever you've been saying to them, they don't care because they started again, and it's at the point now it's them or me. She said she was going to handle it. Well, I just checked in with her earlier today, and she said that she's giving them one last chance because of course she is. And if they do anything again, they're out of there. My thing of it is they should have been gone, in my opinion. For starters, they aren't on the lease, and are harassing me pretty much, and they don't pay their bills. Why give them another chance? So now I'm stuck on what to do. Like, me and my husband are looking into getting a new place next month, and hopefully we get it. It just sucks we have to be the ones to move. I should have had the cops involved instead of letting the property manager handle it. Is there anything I can do from here on out, if they keep bothering us, to get them out of here if the property manager and landlord isn't doing anything? Any revenge tactics in mind? Any advice or thoughts? Thank you. Hellfreezer's note. Definitely don't do anything to actively antagonize them. In these situations, you don't want to be seen as the aggressor. You don't want to do something that the wrong person could see at the wrong time that will then make it look as if you've been the bad guy all along. Might feel good in the moment, but it'll have long-term consequences. Best advice, if you are planning to move, is just ride it out. And if things do get really bad, don't go to the property manager again. Call the cops. If the cops in your local area are worth calling. 3. I live in an apartment building with someone I take care of. It's his place, but I live in. The downstairs neighbor here is a nightmare. She is extremely sensitive to everything. They left over 10 notes on the door complaining about things, either out of control or accusing us of doing things we are not. My phone slides off the bed at 10 p.m. and hits the floor. She will bang on the ceiling 3 times with a hammer or broom or whatever is near her. Soft music on at 2 p.m. while I clean. She bangs then too. She complains to the landlord that we smoke cigarettes and weed, and we don't. She says she can hear the TV, hear us changing channels, etc. But we keep the volume at 15 to 18. She says she can hear us peeing at night. Yada yada. Ew. Don't listen to people pee, you creep. Our apartment building has a terrible foundation. Creaky floors, random long cracks in the walls, etc. And the landlord knows this. I work mostly at night. The daytime is my only time to get most things done. The guy, my friend, whom I caretake for, left a bit of a mess for me in the kitchen today. Decided to play some Glass Animals and Tears for Fears at low-medium volume. Today she aggressively stormed upstairs, knocked hard as hell on my door, and her daughter, who doesn't usually live with her, stood on the other side. There was a baby in the neighbor's hands. This is how the convo went.
Do you see this? Do you having see this?
Yes, I do. It's also 2 p.m. When is a suitable time to play music? What is a baby's schedule?
Babies sleep all the time.
Yes, but I have a life as well. I work at night, and the daytime is the only thing to get things done. Baby is sleeping. The neighbor's daughter says,
Yeah, but my baby's trying to sleep. So that's why we're documenting you. We have videos, evidence. I just got out of the effing hospital, says my neighbor, with a collapsed lung.
Doesn't sound like it.
And I have multiple sclerosis. I can hear you peeing at night.
Pervert.
I can hear your television changing the channels.
I'm so sorry about that. My dad and brother just died. I have endo and PCOS, if you're trying to take it there. I've told the landlord about the foundational issues. I've made as many adjustments as possible. Rugs on the floor, turning down the volume, playing video games with headphones, tiptoeing at night, peeing longer and lightly, etc. But I cannot walk on eggshells around you. The landlord has said this as well to me. You should talk to them.
We're going to sue. We're going to do something with this evidence. The police told me they're going to give you a ticket if I call again
for peeing too fast.
Don't you know that? Ugh.
They storm off back downstairs. Should I be concerned? No. I've done all possible to fix the issues and accommodate her, and I haven't breached my lease's terms when it comes to noise and music. No music between 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., and repetitive noise is different from normal apartment noise. There have been multiple officers to my door whom she called, who have all said they stood outside for a while, and only heard nothing but normal apartment noise. I have also always reminded my friend who I take care of to keep it down. But his short-term memory isn't the best, and routine doesn't work for him either, so sometimes he might put the toilet seat down hard. Unless he's banging it up and down for hours on end, I don't see the problem. And we have doors with push locks that undo when you turn the knob. They tend to make a click noise, no matter if you turn it softly or not. Again, unless he's doing it obsessively, I don't see the problem. I showed him how to do it quietly by putting your finger in front of the lock so it kind of muffles the lock, but he forgets, and she is angered by the lock too. She's angered by everything. Stop trying to placate her. I don't know what to do anymore, and while I stood my ground, my anxiety is high over the situation. Hellfreezer's note. Just keep on keeping on, okay? Nothing you do is going to satisfy this freak. Everything you do will upset her. It doesn't matter what adjustments you make. She's going to keep complaining. But the good thing is, you're well within the law. You're well within the rules of the lease, which, to be clear, is different from the law. She's the only one who's going to get in trouble here. If she's going to do something with it and sue you, yeah, okay, let her try. She'll be laughed out of court, as she should be. If I were you, I'd just sit back and enjoy the show. She literally can't touch you. And if she tries to escalate and does anything more proactive, well, then you get the fun of calling the police on her. 4. So my fiancé and I moved into a new condo in January. Since then, our neighbours have been finding any reason to report us to the HOA. But today it got out of hand. For backstory, I, 24 in female, and my fiancé, 27 in male, recently moved to Florida. The condo is perfect, but the neighbours are a nightmare. We have never had issues with neighbours before. 2 days after moving in, I met my neighbour. She is an older lady, retired, probably in her 70s. Her and her husband present as hippies, and initially we thought we'll get along great. Well, she said the mail guy shoved a package of mine into the mailbox, and it was not closed all the way, and she didn't want it to get stolen, so she brought it to me. I thanked her and introduced myself. She said,
Yeah, the kids who used to live here never checked their mail either.
I explained we just moved in, so I wasn't expecting any mail, nor did my landlord give me a mail key yet. She rudely said,
Just check your mail more often,
and walked away. Days later, around 6 p.m., my fiancé and I were listening to some California reggae and cooking dinner with the windows open. I went outside to let our dogs out, and I found a note on my gate saying to keep the music down. Like I said, it was still daylight out and the music was not loud. The next day, my fiancée saw the neighbor, her husband, and he explained that they could hear music through the walls. We apologized and said our windows were open, but we will move the speakers as far away from the walls as possible just to be sure. But we did feel it was an exaggeration. We still wanted to be respectful nonetheless. She has continuously sent her husband to do her bidding. Her husband says sometimes the dogs bark when we are not home, and asked we keep our blinds closed. We said we would do that, but sometimes dogs bark, and if we're not home, there's not much that can be done. We started closing the blinds whenever we're not home, but when we are home, we leave them open. A few days later, the husband states, "You don't have your blinds closed. My wife came over here and looked through the fence and your blinds were open." Which honestly is just very creepy. Yeah, that's because they're stalking you. We were doing them a courtesy by keeping the blinds closed, but what we do with our blinds is our business. I should also note that the blinds are vertical landlord special blinds, not horizontal. So it's very easy for the dogs to stick their heads in between the blinds if they please. Fast forward to this morning. I had to take one dog to the vet and then head into work. I was in my car with one of my dogs, pulling up the maps to the vet on my phone. My lady neighbor comes storming out in her robe, screaming at me. "Oh, madam, no, not appropriate to be out in your robe. No one wants to see that. Please get dressed before leaving the house." I roll the window down to see whatever the problem is, and she tells me,
"Your dog has not stopped howling. I don't know how long you've been sitting here, but it won't shut the F up."
I apologize and explain that I had to take one dog but not the other, because we were headed to the vet, and the other dog obviously does not understand we are not going somewhere fun. All he knows is that he was left out. She claims the dogs bark all day. Not true. I have a nanny cam, and I should muzzle that effing dog and put him in a kennel. Your husband should probably do the same with you, madam. I said that was cruel and wouldn't help the problem, and again, there was nothing I could do this minute. She then claimed I abuse my animals because they bark sometimes when I'm at work, and that she was going to call the HOA and animal control. I invited her to, since I know this is not true. She also said, "I look through your gate, and I know you don't close the blinds." Again, stop looking through my windows. She continued to scream at me for a few minutes, eventually going inside when she realized nothing was going to come from the conversation. I would have called the cops on the non-emergency line if this vet appointment was not absolutely necessary. He was having surgery to remove a possibly cancerous bump. I should also mention that this took place today at 8:30 a.m., well within the sound ordinance of the city. And they do often do things that violate our HOA agreements, like putting up clothing lines that block the walking path of our condo, report them. Putting plants in the walking paths, report them. Parking in car spots that aren't theirs, etc., report them. That goes both ways. They even asked if they could put a herb garden on our side of the property line, to which we said yes, rescind that permission, even though they've been nothing but rude. We have never made a complaint about any of these things once. Not sure if I have a harassment case at this point, if I should talk to the HOA or what to do. In the meantime, I will be installing a Ring doorbell or some sort of outdoor camera, so I can ensure she's not coming through my gate to look through my windows, since that would be trespassing. Hellfreezer's note, good call on the Ring door camera. Start documenting all the harassment, and then once you have enough of a case, definitely make a complaint for harassment. I would also look into filing any grievances you have with the HOA, as you're operating within the rules and can prove that you are. It's only going to look bad for them. 5. My boyfriend, 21, and I, 20 and female, live in an apartment complex. Each building is 10 units, 4 to a floor, 2 in the basement. We're on the top floor facing the parking lot. Today we were on our way inside, our building being straight ahead, from walking the dogs when I noticed an older man with his own dog near the building to our left. I swung wide with our older dog as she is reactive, and passed her off to my boyfriend at the door to our building. We said goodbye, and I turned to walk to my car to leave for work. The older man had made his way closer to the parking lot and was looking at me, so I said, "Hi, how are you?" My first mistake, he asked, "Is that your boyfriend?" and he said his name. Thinking they had probably ran into each other, I smiled and said yes. He started to talk to me about the weather and other neighborly things. Then he asked, "You're this apartment right here, right? With the twinkly lights on the patio?" I paused. The vibe was off. I don't know, my instincts said to lie. I said, "Oh no, we're on the first floor at the back of the building. You can't see it from here." He then said, "Oh, I was certain that was yours." I asked why. He said, "A few weeks ago, I was sitting on my patio and smelled smoke coming from your apartment." To clarify again, he lives in the building next to ours, at least 100 meters away. At this point, I'm extremely confused, as he's not only ignored my insistence that the apartment he is referring to is not our apartment, it is, but also why he's telling me this now. He then tells me what has me writing this now. "Well, I knocked on your door and no one answered, so I tried the handle and it was unlocked." Ew. I swear to God, my jaw dropped. The door is never unlocked. He said, "I really thought it was your apartment since when I walked in, the dogs were in a kennel right inside the door barking at me, and the jacket you're wearing right now was hanging up." I don't know how long it took me to say something, but it was long enough for him to add to his story. "I called 911 and 2 fire trucks showed up and went into your apartment to see where the fire was, and they said it was your dryer." I finally answered him, "Well, I'm glad that wasn't ours. I gotta get to work now." I got in my car and called my boyfriend. Then I sat for a second and let it sink in. Why would he go in? Why wouldn't the fire department leave a notice? Why weren't we contacted? I just couldn't shake the feeling. When I pulled into work, I called the non-emergency police line and left a message for the fire department. Not 30 minutes later, I got a call. "Hi, this is Fire Chief Bob. I'm looking into the address and time frame you gave, and we haven't been to that address in at least the last year from what I'm seeing. And if we had, we would have contacted you before leaving." I said thank you and hung up. There was no smoke. There was no fire. There was no police or fire department call. This man entered my apartment, unprompted, waited until I was away from my boyfriend, and told me he entered my apartment when we weren't home. Why would he do that? I mean, listen, entering is one story, but making sure I knew, am I overreacting? My thought process is, 1, there was no reason for him to enter our apartment, so he was doing something. 2, he went out of his way to tell me he entered our apartment. 3, if he got away with it for a few weeks, as he put it, why is he telling me now? I'm going to our leasing office tomorrow to talk to the manager. I really don't know what to do. I mean, we never leave the door open, so how many times did he try before we left it open? Any advice would be amazing, and if I'm overreacting, please tell me. I can't sleep. Hellfreezer's note. Well, one possibility is you are so consistent with making sure the door is locked that he didn't actually gain access to your apartment. He's just telling you he did, lying like he did when he said he phoned, the fire department. That's probably the most comforting solution there. What I would do if I were you, I'd look into the possibility of getting either a Ring or some other sort of camera doorbell, so that anyone that comes to your door, you have a record of them, so you'll definitely know when he was there, and if you try to enter the apartment. Obviously, you'll have to check what the rules are within the building you're in, but hopefully it's permitted. He's probably just a bit of a cook, and not really a real threat to you or your partner. But it doesn't hurt to make sure, just in case, maybe he has a history of harassing people, to make sure that anyone in authority that should know has a record that he's made these statements. They do sound quite threatening. Certainly, the one time I had a stranger walk into my home, I was not polite about it. You're definitely not overreacting to be concerned that someone has, even if they're lying, that they've suggested they've done this. Your home should be a private place for just you and your partner. But for now, all you can do is keep a record of it, look into possibly getting that doorbell, and hope it doesn't escalate any further. If you can't get permission to put the doorbell on the outside, you should be able to get a motion-activated camera pointed at your front door so that when it opens and closes, it triggers, maybe takes a picture or starts recording for a minute or two. That way, if you are, I doubt you'll ever will again, I'm sure you'll be checking twice from now on, but if you happen to not lock the door and he does gain access, you'll know, but I doubt it's going to happen again. Hey Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Naughty Neighbours, episode 38. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you would like to support the channel, then you can do so by supporting me on my Patreon. If I could get up to like 1,500 patrons a month at only $1, I probably wouldn't even need to run ads. It's a nice thought, maybe we'll get there one day. You'll find that linked in the description. You'll also find a link to the Hellfreezer merchandise store, and if you like, you can leave a one-off tip by clicking on the heart with the $sign underneath the video. That is all very much appreciated, not required, but it is appreciated. Okay, no more business today, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is... I'm going to make this one food-related again just because I'm hungry and I really should have eaten something before I started recording. What is a food that you could eat continuously every day, but you don't because you know it's so unhealthy that you do? For me, right now, it's just bacon and eggs because it's delicious, it's quick to make, and personally for me, I think you can eat it any time of day. It doesn't just have to be a breakfast, but I don't really ascribe to just certain foods at breakfast time. Let me know what you think in a comment below, and before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one comes from Naughty Neighbours 36, and it was quite simple. Do you have a favourite plate? And today's answer comes from Vanetta Masetta. I have a china plate I used when I was a kid. Somehow I ended up with one from a set my family had growing up, and looking at it always makes me happy. It has some little strawberry plants painted on it. Sort of Art Nouveau meets cottage. That sounds lovely. Thank you very much for your answer, Vanetta Masetta. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.